Hello, everybody. MegaZardX here, back at it again to give y'all another very exciting episode on Zard's Thoughts. Now, I just want to go through and talk about this Nintendo Switch Online Playtest program because it was about a week ago. Nintendo came out on a statement on Twitter and said, "We will be performing a test related to a new feature for Nintendo Switch Online on Nintendo Switch." And they said, starting at 8 o'clock on October 10th, existing Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack members will be able to apply to participate on a first come, first serve basis. Now, instantly, everybody and their mama looked at this statement and was like, what the heck is Nintendo doing right now? And that kind of got our mind to kind of stumble exactly, think and wonder exactly what could Nintendo be testing. I mean, this system is like, it's been out since 2017. Like, literally, it's been on the market for 7, almost 8+ years now. So it's like, what the heck will you be testing with the online this late in the console's life if it wasn't in preparation for something that's also going to be implemented into the Nintendo Switch 2? So I feel like that was probably a given and running in the back of everybody's minds. But in terms of this application process, if you look into the fine details, they were only taking 10,000 applications, and there were some regions that were able to participate, such as the US, Japan, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, or Spain. And if you are outside of those countries, well, tough luck. We ain't letting you in. Now, they're only letting 10,000 people up into this joint. So at least for us here in America, they said first come, first serve. I like how they said they were going to leave this thing open for longer than just a few minutes, like an hour plus or whatever though. But literally that sucker filled up in like the first 5 seconds. I remember I was heading on my way to work and I was in my car and I was like, all right, I was parked. I wasn't driving or nothing like that. And I was like, all right, I'm there at what was it? It was like 10 o'clock my time. Right as soon as the thing was about to go live, and I hit the button and it literally said we filled up applications not even 10 seconds up into the thing. I was like, what the heck? I was here from the very get-go. I don't know. I unfortunately I wasn't one of the people that managed to make the cut though, but there's some people out there that reporting, some people that I follow, higher, YouTube people or whatever though, they managed to get up in there and stuff. And I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I could have though. But with 10,000 people, if you do the math, 10,000 divided by what, 140 plus million Nintendo Switch owners, yeah, that your chances were slim at best though. But albeit, even though I wasn't necessarily one of the people accepted, I knew that Nintendo's over here trying to cook something up. I don't know exactly what, but that's all we had at the time. And then later on, they managed to email out those people that managed to get into the playtest and said, hey, we asked that for y'all that are participating in this online playtest to not talk about this thing at all, whether it be the game app or something that you're going to wind up down here within the next upcoming few days, or anything online or anything with a website, etc. And I'm like, Nintendo knows good and well there's absolutely, positively no way on this earth that not at least one person out of these 10,000 people ain't gonna leak this mess out. Because let's face the facts here. These aren't game publishers. They're not people that work in the industry like YouTubers that know how to deal with NDAs and stuff with gaming reviews and things of that nature. No. These are people that don't have anything to lose. Like what's Nintendo gonna do? Like brick their Switch or like blacklist them or something like that, or just take away their Nintendo Switch Online digital games or something? No. They ain't gonna go through all of that stuff. They know good and well that this mess is gonna leak. But the fact that they are saying, hey, don't even talk about it, I'm like, okay, that's interesting in it of itself. And then that kind of leads us to where we're currently at right now. I mean, literally, we're almost about a week away from this thing actually launching for those playtesters to go out there and test this thing. Now, we did manage to get a few additional pieces of information thanks to some people being able to look into some of the download stuff on the back end though. But apparently this app that the people are going to be going through and testing it is going to be roughly about 2.2 gigabytes in storage size. That can kind of limit or basically kind of eliminate some factors of like what we could possibly expect as a new feature coming to Nintendo Switch Online members. And this is particularly for those with the expansion pack. So it's like, I don't know if they did that to kind of limit the pool a little bit for them to only choose expansion pack tier people versus just any NSO members, or is this new feature going to be related with Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack members. I'm leaning more so on the latter rather than the former, though, because we also managed to get some interesting little bits of information on what that could possibly be. And everybody and their mama was thinking, well, maybe could have been possibly a streaming app. But once we figured out that storage size for the app is going to be 2.2 gigabytes, remind y'all that's about the same size as the Nintendo Switch, global test fire for like Splatoon 3. And obviously they let anybody try out that game that had a Nintendo Switch with an online membership or whatever, though. They let anybody try out that game, though. And usually if you're thinking about streaming and stuff, usually the applications for those are usually quite drastically smaller than something that big. It's like you just need something just to kind of get it launched, and then everything else relies on the internet connection. So the storage size shouldn't be nearly that big. So some people were thinking it was game streaming, but I don't think that necessarily might be the case, though. And if it's not that, and I doubt it would be something like a trophy system or something like that, unless it's incorporate like a lot of features all in one. But I think they're testing out mainly just one thing. I mean, I don't think a trophy system or anything like that, if Nintendo were going to implement that, that would have been too crazy where it's like, hey, we got to have people testing this out. That doesn't make sense, though. So what I'm leaning more so on, and there's some, other situational things that are happening on the other side of the pond that kind of, I don't know, the timing of it is kind of interesting, is could we possibly be seeing GameCube games being added to NSO here fairly soon, particularly probably would be attached with the expansion pack tier. I mean, that would make sense why they're allowing those people to test it out and not the basic NSO people. But here's the reason why this might be GameCube games coming, though, because if you look over here on Reset Era and stuff, like there's some people out there that know how to look into like the shipment logs of things that are actually in manufacturing right now, though. And apparently there are some parts that Nintendo are ordering and manufacturing that are specific to the GameCube controller, implying that possibly the GameCube controller could be making a return. And if the GameCube controller is making a return, I mean, remind y'all, this GameCube controller, remember back when Super Smash Bros. Ultimate came out, they did manage to put that GameCube controller along with the adapter back in reproduction, because everybody and their mama that played like Melee back in the day with Super Smash Bros. Still likes using that controller from Melee to Smash 4 all the way up until Ultimate. So they keep bringing that mess back, though. But there's not a new Smash Bros. Game, or at least one that hasn't been announced, for them to say, hey, let's bring this controller back. So for them to be making random GameCube controllers out of nowhere, it's a little bit odd and a little bit fishy, doesn't it sound like it? So it kind of makes me think, well, you probably will have this kind of launching side by side with something GameCube related on the Switch. Now, we're not, we're kind of used to having GameCube games already on the Switch. Like, think back all the way to the Mario 35th anniversary. Like, we had basically like a remaster of Super Mario Sunshine already on the thing. We had a remaster of Metroid Prime. We also managed to have Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. Like, Nintendo's been slowly going through some of their GameCube games and doing either remakes or remasters, or porting the stuff over to the Switch as like usually as individual releases, though. So it's like, okay, it's nothing new with GameCube with certain things on the Switch, though. So it makes me think, well, maybe, I don't think they would have released a controller by now if they're trying to tap into like people playing with the original hardware and stuff for certain set games, though. So I'm thinking it has to be something a little bit more significant about that. And if the app is 2.2 gigabytes, that kind of makes me think, you know what, you could have a game or two or so that might be able to fit, at least in this playtest era, for Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass members. Like, and that's where things get a little bit interesting, because GameCube games, they're not necessarily big, but they are certainly bigger than your standard NES, Super Nintendo, and N64, etc., that are already on those set applications, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, etc. And it makes me think, well, you could stick at least 2 or 3, even if they were like somewhat relatively smaller, and try to jam pack it as tight as you can within the 2.2 gigabytes. And that kind of seems a little bit more plausible, at least from my train of thinking, though, because just having a launcher for it and being able to dive into and play a few set games, like, I can think maybe they want to test out probably Double Dash, maybe Super Mario Sunshine, because honestly that game's already out there for people that managed to buy that 35th anniversary game for Super Mario 3D All Stars. That would be an easy one to put out there though. And I'll just throw something out there like a Metroid Prime remaster, because that game is technically out there. So it's not like they're really losing anything of value or whatever, though, even if this thing were to leak, which I'm fully expecting it to, because it only would take one person talking about this stuff. The internet's the internet and it never forgets. So it's like, gosh, by golly, like this information is going to get out there one way or the other. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised either if Nintendo comes out in a statement. I mean, we're already like halfway throughout this week already. And, you know, halfway into the next week, that's when the playtest goes live. I would not be shocked. I would not be surprised if 2 days prior to this playtest, they announce what's coming, but don't really say anything on the testing side. But if you put two and two things together and you be like, oh, okay, they're probably testing what they just announced. I would not put it past them. You might as well get ahead of the curve, Nintendo, instead of having all this stuff leak out, because these aren't no traditional NDAs or nothing like that. This stuff is going to get out there whether you like it or not. So you might as well go ahead and get ahead of the curve. I'm just saying though. So maybe they just told them not to talk about it because maybe this might not be the best state that these games could be in, because I feel like Nintendo has done that before. What was it, back with Nintendo Switch Sports or something like that? I remember playing that game early in its testing phase, and I think they said don't talk about that game either. I don't know though, so I guess Nintendo's kind of picky with some of their stuff though. But yeah, outside of that, I feel like GameCube is the strongest possibility that at least I'm coming up with, unless it's something on the streaming side that for some reason needed to be as big as 2.2 gigabytes though. I don't know. I've been scratching my mind for quite some time, and I figure I might as well go ahead and get my thoughts out here on this before a week later, and then we finally know exactly what this is, because this is fully gonna leak out there. Like that's a given. There's no way they're gonna be able to cover this stuff though. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below what all do you think about this Nintendo Switch Online Playtest program. Like, are you leaning more so on the side of there could be adding something new for expansion pass owners such as Nintendo GameCube? Could it be something with game streaming or anything like that? Or is it something odd, something that nobody has thought of or has even predicted yet? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments though, but that's going to do it for today's video though. So if you really like this, make sure you're going to hit that like button, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing. So remember y'all, until whatever video I make next, see y'all.